Listen, Susan, please. I've double-locked the doors. You can't get in. Now move back, child, where I can see you. During all the years, I've been taking care of you. You, in return, have been taking care of me.
Grandfather, I belong with you.
Not any longer, Susan. You're still my grandchild, and always will be. But now, you're a woman, too. I want you to belong somewhere, to have roots of your own. With David, you'll be able to find those roots and live normally like any woman should do. Believe me, my dear, your future lies with David, and not with a silly old buffer like me. One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. Goodbye, Susan. Goodbye, my dear.
You're listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who, where we discuss everything about the hit BBC series, Doctor Who. Today we're discussing the 8th Doctor Big Finish audio story, An Earthly Child. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today is Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Folks, be sure to follow The Secrets of Doctor Who in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, or at the StarQuest YouTube channel, where you should make sure to hit the bell to get notifications of new episodes. Stick around to the end of the episode. We do have more of your great listener feedback. And in the meantime, Jimmy, can you give us a recap of what happens in this story?
It's now 30 years after the first Doctor left Susan on 22nd century Earth, and he finally comes back in his 8th incarnation. Though the Daleks are long gone, the situation on Earth is still dicey. Susan's husband, David, has died, but she still has their child, Alex, who is a student at Oxford. Susan believes that Earth is unable to sort out its own problems and is sliding into a new dark age. Publicly, she's trying to convince the Earth Council to contact other worlds for help, and privately, she's made contact with a race called the Guldresi, who are willing to sign a treaty to provide the help. The situation is complicated by the fact that in the wake of the Dalek invasion, Earth has become profoundly paranoid about aliens. Even David, who doesn't know about his Time Lord heritage, is anti-extraterrestrial and refers to filthy aliens. But the Earth Council is open to negotiating with the Guldresi, and they're getting close to signing a treaty. When the Doctor shows up, he's convinced that they're planning something. Eventually, he learns that they only want to sign a peace treaty with Earth so they can use it as a military base to expand their empire, and humanity will become a slave race. To thwart this, he reveals their plans to the Earth Council and broadcasts them all over nearby space so that other local races will know too. The Guldresi then cancel the treaty and leave, but they revealed that the Doctor and Susan are aliens, which shocks Alex. The Doctor invites them both to travel with him, but Alex wants to stay on Earth, and so does Susan. The Doctor then leaves, promising to come back soon. Afterward, Susan says, "Yes, grandfather, of course you will." The end.
All right. So what'd you think of this one, Jimmy?
Well, I liked it. It's the beginning of a series of stories that focus on the 8th Doctor and Susan. And these stories also feature Alex, who is played by Paul McGann's son, Jake McGann. So you have the father and the son starring as great-grandfather and great-grandson. What I really like, though, is Susan. And I like seeing her interactions with the 8th Doctor. I think they're really nice across this set of stories. This, to me, is just the beginning of the stories, though. There's like, there are a number of them, like half, well, there's more like 4,
okay.
and even more that focus on Susan, including one that Paul McGann is not actually in. It's a short story that's read by Carol Ann Ford that brings us up to the beginning of the Time War. And the 8th Doctor's trying to keep Susan out of the Time War, but she ends up volunteering for service anyway. And so I like the series of stories in terms of an opening. This is okay. It's not the greatest story, but it's not bad by any stretch. I think some of it could have been a little clearer, although I was listening to it on 1.5 speed this time through. So, that may have affected my experience of it a little bit, but bottom line, I enjoy this story and I recommend it to others, as an introduction to this set of stories involving the doctor's long-awaited return to Susan, which we started to get on TV, but are not going to get now, at least anytime soon, now that the future of the show, now that the show is basically on hiatus again.
Right. Yeah, and the future is unclear.
Yeah.
I like this one too. It's interesting. This came out in 2009. So, as we record about 16 years ago, and Carolyn Ford is recognizably Susan, an older Susan, but recognizable. Although it's been more than 40 years, it's 50 years since
more.
Yeah.
60, it's been 60 years.
Well, at the time,
50. Yeah.
Yeah. It was about 50 years since, but recognizably Susan. I liked Paul McGann's interactions with her as the doctor, as grandfather. It was kind of fun to see that and how different he was from the man she remembered, and getting some of that. I like that. We don't get another. I was looking this up. Another Susan story with the doctor for 4 years after this. So the next Susan story is in 2013 that they came back to visit her. So interesting to see. And having his great grandson, that's an interesting concept, an idea of bringing in more of the doctor's family. Although I presume we don't get any more explanation of who's the doctor's daughter or son, who's Susan's parents and that sort of thing. But as we
no, not in this. But I actually know the plan for the TV show who Susan's mom was going to be. It was going to be Poppy.
Yeah.
But they retconned that as, she's Belinda's child now, and so that path is closed.
Right. Yeah, we talked about it before. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I did like how they've imagined what would have happened on Earth following the end of the Dalek invasion in the 22nd century. How people would have reacted. So they did say that Earth's technology was set back. They said 200 years. That 2/3 of the population of the planet were killed by the Daleks. So this is an Earth that that's recovering from a dramatic setback, and people they're against aliens, because why wouldn't you be? That would make sense. And there's even some interesting folks who are anti-technology. This Earth United, also sometimes called the Watch. Are those supposed to be the same group? I wasn't clear on that.
That's one of the things exactly what the Watch represents. I wasn't clear about either.
Yeah, so it might be just sort of like the militant wing of the political group, Earth United, and sort of like Sinn Féin and the IRA and the Irish Troubles. But they are anti-government, anti-technology extremists, and Susan, not part of the government, but
she's like
sort
an
of
advisor,
right, and recognized as a leader in the revolution that overthrew the Daleks, and so she's highly esteemed. And so this underground group, the Watch, is trying to recruit Alex, not because he's particularly valuable in and of himself as a member, but because of what he represents. If you could get Susan's son on our side, it's a symbolic, gesture. And they were setting him up at the end, and I wasn't sure what it was they were setting him up for, but they made him carry a weapon into this council meeting. Were they going to have him assassinate somebody? I wasn't clear on that.
That's, again, one of the things. I was listening at 1.5 speed. I wasn't entirely clear on what he was supposed to do with the gun.
Right. But it felt like the idea was to kind of maneuver him into a situation where he does this action on behalf of the group.
My guess was he was meant to shoot the Guldresi representative.
Okay. So, there were a lot of threads thrown out there, and not all of them were tied up. This Faisal Jensen, who was the leader of this other group, this underground or rebellious group. He's sort of out there as a villainous character. But the interesting thing, though, is he was right. Like, this group was right. You can't trust these aliens, the Guldresi. They did actually have it in for them.
The group is wrong that you can't trust any aliens, but he was right that you can't trust these. Yeah.
And the Guldresi are unique to this story, right?
Yeah.
We haven't seen them anywhere else.
And that's common in Big Finish. They make up aliens that we've never heard of before on the fly.
Yeah, I always have to ask, because with the amount of Doctor Who that's out there, we can't keep track of them all. So we have Hope, quote unquote, is the name of the Guldresi representative, talking to Susan and offering hope. But it turns out it's sort of an AI representative, which is interesting. We've talked about that with
it takes the form of one of David's Alex's tutors at Oxford.
Right. Yeah. Eventually takes over. It has the ability to assume the form of people.
But you can still tell who you're talking to, because every time it wants you to answer a question, it'll make a statement and then say, agree, disagree, agree, disagree. And
yeah.
I like that. It's a nice verbal tick that conveys an alien way of thinking.
Right. In a computerized way of thinking, like a binary, everything is yes or no, agree or disagree. And the doctor's finally coming back to check up on Susan, and now he realizes his great grandson, because he gets a sense that as often happens, the TARDIS brings him there because he needs to be there at this time. It's sort of this nebulous. How does the Doctor end up in the middle of all these situations? And so that's what's going on. We do have TARDIS separation. The Guldresi take the TARDIS early on, which is a huge effect.
It's a plot point, though, because Susan has been in her negotiations with the Guldresi. They asked her, "Is there any alien tech on Earth at this point after the Daleks?" And agree, disagree, and she disagreed. There is no alien tech on Earth right now. And then they find the TARDIS, and they think Susan's been lying to them.
Right, or maybe she just doesn't know everything.
That's they're also possible.
They're very black and white, binary thinking. We also have this interesting situation of, over the past 30 years, they've had these colonists stranded on the moon. When the Daleks left, and humanity had no way of either speaking to these people on the moon or rescuing them, and so they've been actually trying to develop rockets to take them there.
This is to me a weak point. I understand you can't go there, but they imply we can't communicate with them, and I'm going, if you and they have lasers, just use Morse code.
Right. Was it one-way communication? I forget what it was.
They said that we can talk to them, but they can't talk back to us.
Right.
But they are receiving signals and like light flashes and stuff from the moon. It's like, and even if you don't have lasers, you can blink the lights of your station on and off and use Morse code to talk to Earth.
Right. If they have enough tech to survive up there, they presumably would have enough tech for just a radio, like just simple, So that was a bit of a plot, a plot hole. But what it does is it gives the Guldresi, once they know about this, it gives them a way to have a goodwill gesture of rescuing the colonists and see, we're good people. You should trust us. Because the Doctor was going to use the TARDIS to rescue them, and not having the access to the TARDIS meant that he couldn't do it. So it's kind of an interesting, the way that they subverted that. So I thought that was interesting. The Doctor, when the Doctor first meets Alex, he doesn't actually, we don't actually have the reunion until halfway through the story. The doctor's kind of there in the background. We hear him speak up on behalf of Susan at a meeting, but from a distant, from a balcony, and she recognizes his voice. Now, kinda. I would expect that Gallifreyans, used to regeneration, would develop ways of recognizing each other that aren't visual or the straight up, I recognize your voice, I recognize your face. They must develop ways of recognizing each other, and
they have that, but they've never been clear about how it works, and it's not perfect. So you'll have Gallifreyans who've regenerated, and sometimes they're recognized and sometimes they're not. And that's essentially what happens in this episode. Susan hears his voice and she thinks it's kind of familiar, but she doesn't immediately recognize, oh, that's grandfather. One thing that may be involved here is Time Lord telepathy, because they are a telepathic species. And so even if it's not bubbling up into their conscious mind, their subconscious may be prompting them of, this person. And similarly, and that kind of goes along with what we see in the series. Like if I'm not mistaken, in the War Games, the War Chief, who is essentially, they've now kind of implied, is the master, meets Patrick Troughton. And it's like, even though you've changed your face, I know who you are.
Right. And yet there are times when he can hide that or mask that. Yeah. Like we did with Sacha Dhawan's master in Spyfall, where he tricked the 13th Doctor. Yeah. I did like the Doctor saying to Alex, I set up your parents, but I was a lot older then, which was, a nice timey-wimey bit. There's some oblique references to why Susan and her grandfather were on Earth and she didn't get a proper Gallifreyan education. They kind of hint at they didn't stay in Gallifrey for something. Yeah, and but they don't come right out and say it, so it's still a mystery. They never do. In Big Finish, when they deal with the Doctor's early history and how he left Gallifrey, they add surrounding detail, but they never address the central mystery. Right. Because the TV show will contradict it someday if they ever were definitive about it. It's just Murphy's Law. What they do is kind of like what was it Remembrance of the Daleks? It was the anniversary episode that occurred in the Seventh Doctor's time, where they said, oh yeah, and guess what? When he and Susan came to Earth in 1963, they brought this device called the Hand of Omega. Right. And Big Finish will do things like that and say, okay, when the Doctor and Susan originally left Gallifrey, there was a stowaway aboard the TARDIS named Quadriga Stoin, but who they didn't know about. Right. So they're adding surrounding detail, but they're not addressing the central mystery of exactly what prompted the flight. Right. Bringing the Hand of Omega hints at maybe there was something having to do with Omega that prompted it. Interesting. There's another interesting bit of dialogue, interchange between Hope and the Doctor. I think it's the Doctor. The Hope's, I am the concept of hope, what you cling to in the dark. And the Doctor responds, you're not a hope. Hope is jam tomorrow, which is kind of a funny reference. It's the starlight in the storm, the candle around the corner. You're just a phantom feeding off of other people's desperate prayers. He's calling him out, like, you're not. You hold yourself up as, oh, we're the hope for the future. No, you're not hope. You're a parasite. That taking advantage of these people. And then the Guldresi then claim we only want a few tokens in return for our generosity. And these will encourage gainful employment for large segments of the population, which I think is a very funny euphemism for slave labor, basically. Gainful employment. And then when the Doctor rejects, well, not when the Doctor, when the Council rejects the Guldresi, the response is, hope abandons you to the mercy of your future. Interesting phrase, the mercy of your future. What do you think that's supposed to mean? I think it's just meant to be threatening. Yeah, the mercy, the justice of your future. Yeah. So, anything else about this one? We talked about Alex and Susan not going with the doctor.
It's a pretty basic story. I mean, there are a few other characters in this, like Susan has a personal assistant who's briefly in it. There's another fellow student at Oxford who, a female who Jake knows, and his tutor is in it. His tutor's voice sounds to me too much like Susan's. I had a little trouble telling them apart.
Right.
Also, things are not going great at it. He's like in Bristol College, Oxford, and apparently there have been protests there, and
student protests.
Oxford got set on, or part of it got set on fire, and I didn't follow all the politics involved in that, but there's at least a sense of things are not going well here on Earth. To justify Susan's conclusion, mankind can't presently sort this out and needs help from other worlds.
Right. Something about increased student grants, which sounds a little ripped from the headlines. There's an interesting.
I was also going to mention this episode was written by Mark Platt, who has also written a number of things. He's written a bunch for Doctor Who, but he wrote the television episode Ghostlight in the Seventh Doctor's time, and he also wrote the direct-to-video that we covered, Downtime. And so we've already done 2 Mark Platt things here on the podcast.
Interesting. Speaking of Mrs. Fleming, Marion Fleming, the tutor, when she's kidnapped and replaced by the Guldresi, they live in, they have sort of like a conceptual space aboard their ship, where your ideas, what you think creates the reality. And so she's sort of in her prison is a reality of her favorite place to vacation as a child with her family. And she eventually fades away, I guess. Yeah. I wasn't quite sure. Yeah. Because she wants to retire and rest or something like that. It was stay here forever.
Yeah, it wasn't clear to me exactly. The doctor later announces she's dead, but it wasn't It wasn't entirely clear to me exactly why she died.
Right. That was a little bit unclear.
There's also some interesting dialogue between the AI Hope and the TARDIS, where the TARDIS doesn't respond, but Hope is talking to the TARDIS. It's like, what are you? And concludes the TARDIS is like a conceptual paradox or something like that.
Right. Because it is, of course, a time machine.
And it's bigger on the inside and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it has its own will, which it is acknowledged as well. Okay. Any other notes on this one?
Nope. It's pretty basic, but it's a decent episode.
It's a nice story that it introduces and the as you mentioned, Susan's arc throughout Big Finish, and so it might be worthwhile as we hear more of Susan's stories in the future. All right, so that brings us to our listener feedback. We had quite a bit this time, so let's dig into that. These are pretty much all about the 15th Doctor season. On The Well, Shiny Bridge on our Discord writes, I've been listening to older episodes, and the one today was Midnight. I find it quite ironic how Jimmy says it, the Midnight entity, cannot come back. I haven't seen The Well, nor listened to your take on it, but I have spoiled it for myself. Did it do well? I see the pun there.
Well, I think that I would stand by my initial assessment that Doctor Who would be stronger if the Midnight Entity never came back and we never learned anything more about it. The story, The Well, even fans of it have said this didn't really need to be a Midnight sequel. It doesn't ruin Midnight, which it could have done, but it doesn't add anything, and it doesn't really need to be a sequel to Midnight. It could have just been some random creature, because what the entity does in The Well is totally different than what it does in Midnight. It is just not doing the same thing. And so I think of it as a superfluous sequel. Fortunately, it didn't do damage, but it also didn't add. And it's fine as a story. It's just has no need to be about the Midnight Entity.
Right. Okay, and then on the story in the engine, TJ Armendariz says, I've actively snorted and laughed when they compared Cassandra to a sheet of lasagna, since I just made a lasagna when listening to this.
I got that line from Sycorax Rock in his song cover, in his 13-ish songs for 13-ish Doctors series. He has in his song for the War Doctor and the Ninth Doctor, when he gets to the ninth, or I'm sorry, in his song, the part of the song that deals with the Ninth Doctor, he talks about the episode where the Ninth Doctor takes Rose to the end of the world, and we meet the last human, and the line in the song is like a B-word lasagna hating everyone.
I get it. TJ also says, also, I'm just realizing the cut to the Doctor and Belinda laughing about the barber claiming to be the gods of storytelling feels a lot like when Donna and the Doctor are given the contracts in the library, Silas in the library, and tear them up in unison. It's a different setting, but the same vibe of being in sync.
Yeah, I agree. It's a similar moment.
There's always comes a point where the Doctor and the companion, especially New Who, they're in sync. They're together. They like that. Yep. On the reality war, TJ also commented, I agreed with y'all's comments about Billie Piper coming back. I do know that she has long been floated as a candidate to play the Doctor. I believe going as far back as Capaldi's casting. There was definitely rumors at one point that she'd been discussed as the possible first female Doctor, so having seen how long people have discussed it, I hope we get her for a couple of seasons, and I kind of think we will, because it would be interesting, and I think she could do it better than Jodie Whittaker did. Though, to be fair, having seen Jodie Whittaker in that one scene in The Reality War, it seems kind of apparent that a lot of the flame for her time falls on Chris Chibnall, since she seemed decent in this and likable in what we got to see in this episode.
Yeah, I don't think the 13th Doctor herself was the big problem in the Chris Chibnall era. I think they made some bad choices with her, like she's got a lecture about, it was too preachy, including about guns. But the real problem was the stories. Mm-hmm. I have no objection to Billie Piper being the Doctor. I don't think she's going to end up being the Doctor for 2 seasons, though. So basically at the time of recording, Doctor Who is on hiatus, and Russell T Davies does not know what its future is. And he's retired from doing his monthly column in Doctor Who magazine, which he did during his most recent era. He did it every month to promote, even if the show wasn't on the air, he would do this column every month to talk about what they're doing in production and try to generate buzz and hype for the show. And he's basically said there's nothing like that going on right now. So the show is basically on hiatus. He's stepped back from doing his column, and he may move on from the series entirely. It may not come back for a while, and it may have a new showrunner when it does. But all that remains to be seen. Since they didn't introduce Billie Piper as the Doctor, they deliberately left themselves some alternatives for what she is. Like, one of the things I thought of, and I meant to mention this in a previous episode, but when Romana regenerates in the 4th Doctor's time, she tries on several faces before she settles on Lalla Ward. And they could do exactly that with Billie Piper as just a momentary face in the regeneration process. Or she could be the TARDIS, or she could be the Bad Wolf entity, or she could be the 16th Doctor who will only remain for one special, or, so there are any number of possibilities. And given the uncertainty about the show's future, I don't think they have a plan for exactly what Billie Piper is. They just threw her in to generate buzz and hopefully encourage the show to come back sooner rather than later. But whether that'll work and exactly what, I mean, it's not even guaranteed Billy Piper will be in the show when it comes back, especially if there's a gap. Just like, there was no original on-screen regeneration of the 8th Doctor into the 9th Doctor. And the same thing could happen to Billy Piper. So I don't know what we're going to get, if anything.
I mean, this will guarantee that Doctor Who itself will be back. I mean, it's
well, it will at some point. Russell T Davies alluded to this. I mean, it's a major IP, and so you're not going to let it sit forever and not make money off it. You'll bring it back in some form, but it may be 5 or 10 years or more.
Yeah. It's a weird time in sci-fi franchises.
And I have to put a lot of the blame for this on Russell T Davies, because Disney told him, based on their streaming experience, what works on streaming, and he chose to go in a different direction, and he chose to politicize everything in this, to the point that that even other BBC shows have recognized the problem. There's a Doctor Who parody that was aired on BBC Radio of that's basically a parody of how the most recent season of Doctor Who ended, and it is dead on the money. We should play it if we can, but it's like you have the Doctor show up and he's got a unit is under attack, but the Doctor shows up and gotta give everybody a hug. Oh, wheelchair bound person, here's a hug. Attractive Asian man, here's a hug. Gotta check all the diversity boxes, and they're actively pointing this out.
Oh wow!
In the parody. And then like a CGI monster is attacking London, as Kate Stewart explains again. Doctor, we must defeat it. How do we do it? And the Doctor is telling her, oh, you've just got to tell me how great I am, babes. And and she does. And as she progressively compliments the Doctor in the parody, the monster starts to die. And finally it dies, and the Kate Stewart character says, I can't believe it, Doctor. It just died of cringe.
That's good. Oh, man. I will have to hold out hope that, that Doctor Who will be back sooner rather than later, and because it's too good to let go.
Yeah.
And that we have somebody in charge who understands why the Chris Chibnall era and the second Russell T Davies eras did not work.
Yeah.
Hopefully. All right. We do have some more feedback on The Word Lord.
Good story.
Recently did. Mark writes, no one should not watch this.
Agreed.
Agreed. And then he totally got me the first when he posted that, because he originally wrote nobody should watch this. I'm like, why not? It's we put so much effort into this. He's like, no, the show.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Then Flying Car 100 writes, did they get the idea for this episode from the Odyssey? There is that part in there where Odysseus told Polyphemus that his name was nobody.
I don't know if they got it from there. There have been other literary characters with names like that. I mean, the name Nemo that in Latin, that's no one. And so Captain Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is Captain No One. And Little Nemo in Slumberland, a famous cartoon character from around the turn of the last century, newspaper cartoons, comic strip characters. Little Nemo in Slumberland is Little Nobody in Slumberland. And so there have been other characters with similar names in the history of literature.
Interesting. Well, thank you, everyone, for your feedback. We do appreciate that. And now we want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Doctor Who, including Megan S., Kevin K., Doyle and Dan A., John S., and Rebecca S. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Doctor Who and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us this time. We'd love to know what you thought of An Earthly Child, this 8th Doctor story. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com or the Secrets of Doctor Who Facebook page. Send an email to doctorwho@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord, or watch the Secrets of Doctor Who in video on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. Now, just to give you a note, we're going to be over the summer, as we're recording this summer of 2025, we're going to be spreading out the shows, doing about a little bit of an every other week schedule or so, maybe a couple weeks in between some episodes. We get some stuff going on, so we want to make sure you have something throughout the summer. So we'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the 4th Doctor story, Meglos. Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Doctor Who.
Thank you, and I'll be back to check on y'all soon.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Doctor Who on StarQuest. And remember, Earth Unini, The Watch, what a lot of navel-gazing, self-obsessed piffle.